On July 13th, 2024, an assassination attempt on Trump's life led to a surge of sympathy and support that many have suggested all but delivered him the presidency 4 months later. The event was so perfect at bolstering Trump's position in the race that many people online have suggested that it was staged, a false flag operation aimed at flipping public opinion. Now, in this video, I'm going to examine the evidence behind that theory and give you my assessment of what really happened. First, let's go over the official story. Now, the Trump rally occurred at a live outdoor location in Meridian, Pennsylvania, where a 20-year-old shooter, his name was Thomas Matthew Crooks, posted himself on the roof of a building just outside the security perimeter that was set up by the Secret Service. His position was obscured by a tree branch with some leaves on it, and at least from the snipers. And during the speech, Crooks fired 4 rounds, nicking Trump's ear, killing a firefighter, and critically injuring 2 other people. A few seconds later, counter snipers killed Crooks with a single gunshot to his head. Trump then emerged from a pile of Secret Service officers and gave a fist bump into the air. The photo, taken by Evan Vucci, a reporter for the Associated Press, appeared on the cover of Time magazine and just about everywhere on social media, becoming one of the most iconic photos ever taken of a president. Now, the question is this: could all of this have been staged? Sleuths across the internet have made multiple arguments that the entire event was planned from beginning to end. Since it's the internet, there are a lot of disparate theories, but they rely on 2 pieces of evidence mainly. The first is that Trump's wound was incredibly minor, considering that he'd just been shot by a high-powered AR-15 style rifle. Later, Trump appeared with a bandage on his ear, but the wound seemed to disappear shortly afterwards, leaving no obvious scar. Now, the second piece of evidence that they put forward is that the Secret Service acted very weird during the assassination, including possibly moving photographers into position for a better photo op in a way that looked planned. Now, here's one video making the rounds on social media that was originally taken by Blake Marnell, also known by the handle Brick Suit, who notes the suspicious movements of Trump's security detail. Now, the original is a little hard to follow, but fortunately another poster made this version that clearly shows the most concerning elements. Okay, so we see this guy, moments after shots were fired, a member of Trump's team rushes to the side of the stage to gather photographers. Now, he is going to be the main character in our event moving forward. You can see he's sort of like a younger Secret Service agent. So he goes off to the left, and we have our, the guy holding the camera saying, "We love you, Trump."
Either that or they're covered. We don't know.
And, wait for it. Wait for it. Trump gets up. You can see roughly where this is. The huddle of people has gone over, and then we see photographers coming in from the left side of the stage. Okay, and we see the blue guy again running along with these people. Now you can see here the flag is being lowered into position, or maybe the wind is just dying down and the flag is going lower. But you also see this man in the blue shirt. That is Evan Vucci, who takes the famous photograph. And then the reporters continue over to the right. And here's the final piece of evidence. He continues to move with the photographers into position with help from his colleagues, and he actually makes physical contact with the photographers. And so what this is saying is that this Secret Service agent is literally choreographing the movements of the press, and that looks damning. Now, I've probably watched both the unedited and the edited version of this video about 20 times. And at first, when there weren't the subtitles, I didn't really know what I was looking at. But the helpful captions showed me that it was indeed odd that the Secret Service was so obviously managing the press during an assassination attempt, where the first priority would obviously be on protecting the president's life. But that argument quickly breaks down under any close scrutiny. Now, first I want to note that the agent in blue, he appears to be in his 20s. He's notably younger than the ones on the stage who are actually protecting the president. This leads me to believe that he's the most junior member of the team and probably had a title along the lines of like press liaison, since he's clearly in charge of the press, who have access behind the riot barriers between the audience and the president himself. That seems like a standard security procedure and a role that the Secret Service should have on staff. Meanwhile, from this other angle, you can see that the events in Brick Suit's video aren't really just moments after the shooting, but they actually occur 49 seconds after the original shots.
Hold, when you're ready, on you.
Ready?
Move!
Up,
Move! Go!
up. Hawkeye's here.
Trump only emerges from their huddle after a Secret Service officer audibly declares, "Shooter down."
Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
The president's been shot. Oh, no.
And this is quite a bit of time for people to spring into action and start performing their jobs. And it's also worth noting that the reporter in dark blue, none other than Evan Vucci, who took the famous photo, there's simply no way that he's a stooge for the Trump administration, if that's what the argument is, if the conspiracy extends to the media. Because shortly after Trump actually won the presidency, Vucci sued the Trump administration for limiting the Associated Press's access to the White House. So if he was in on it, then why would Trump turn on him later? I just don't see any video evidence in these shots of anything out of the ordinary in this extraordinary moment. But that doesn't rule out the ear. So you can see in this video that Trump is speaking to the crowd in the same cadence that he always does, with no obvious apprehension of someone who is about to be shot at.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
And then, the moment that the shooter actually opens fire, Trump immediately moves his hand to his ear like he's been stung by an insect. This is direct evidence to me of direct physical contact in relation to the gunfire. And then he starts to duck and cover at the same rate as everyone else in the audience does. It all happens at the same time. This does not look scripted to me. If I was about to be shot at, I would know it and I would get down very quickly. Meanwhile, Secret Service officers provide a physical barrier to further bullets with their own bodies. And this, that takes some serious courage. And then Trump emerges just a little later with a light dribble of blood across his face. Now, skeptics suggest that there is not nearly enough blood coming out of his ear if he had been hit by what I am assuming was something similar to a Remington A223 rifle round. Now, on direct contact, a round like that would leave a large cavity in the target because of the gas bubble around the lead that would do substantial physical damage. Skeptics point out that Trump would have had a much more serious injury if he'd been hit by a bullet. They variously note that he could have been injured instead by broken glass from a teleprompter or the expanding gas around the bullet as it raced through the air. Now, both of those things, they seem plausible to me. Especially since a few days later, there weren't any signs of like a real injury to his ear. But this just means it's a minor injury. We do know that it happened in direct relation to the gunfire. We do know, however, that the bullets were lethal. 2 people were critically injured in the audience, and Corey Comparatore was killed. That the shots missed is at least in part explained by Crooks's past history with firearms. According to Slate, Crooks had no military training and was reportedly barred from his high school rifle team. He had such bad aim, he was considered, quote, dangerous and a potential risk for accidentally harming his teammates. Now, this is not the sort of crack shooter that you're going to want to have performing a near miss on your head with a lethal round. While the results of the shooting ultimately helped Trump in the subsequent election, proponents of the false flag hypothesis have to contend with a few very hard to stomach facts. The first and foremost is this. For it to work, Trump would have had to be so confident in the shooting skills of this would-be assassin that a shot could get close enough to potentially cause him actual damage. And also that the shooter would be willing to sacrifice their life for the president's plot. Frankly, that just seems crazy to me. It would require the shooter to be a trained sniper and be willing to die. I just don't see it. This is the same president also who bagged out of military duty in Vietnam because of, quote, bone spurs. He has never displayed the sort of physical courage it would take to stand still and simply trust that this shooter would miss. Indeed, from other news sources, and this one's from Fox no less, we know that Crooks's parents called the police thinking that their son might do something really dangerous a few hours before the assassination attempt. Now, if this really was a huge, covert conspiracy and coordinated attempt to fake an assassination, you wouldn't expect a leak like that from your shooter's parents to happen. It would have to be very carefully coordinated in advance, with every piece fitting together like a puzzle in order to work. Altogether, I just don't see any evidence whatsoever that Trump staged his assassination to gain a leg up in the race. There was no reason for him to risk his own life facing down the barrel of an assault rifle, especially since he had just performed exceptionally well at the presidential debate against Biden just a few weeks earlier. Indeed, it was so bad that Biden actually dropped out of the race. So that's my assessment of the truth around the assassination attempt on Trump's life. Yes, it clearly helped him win the election, but there's no plausible explanation for why it would be a false flag. Indeed, all the evidence points to the contrary. This just looks like uncredible propaganda of the likes you see all over the internet anyway. But this is not to say that Trump wasn't potentially involved in other nefarious actions around the 2024 election. Conspiracies can happen, and when they do, sometimes they leave little hints of evidence behind. Now, while it's not conclusive, there is a lot more evidence that Trump could have been involved in tipping the scales of the election into his favor by illegally manipulating voting machines. And for more information on that, you might enjoy this video that I did called, Yes, There Is Evidence That Trump Hacked the Election. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video on election integrity. It means the world to me that you're here and that you support this kind of fiercely independent journalism. I'd love you to sign up for my weekly newsletter over at sgcarney.substack.com, where you will get updates about whatever it is that I'm working on. My premium subscribers also get early access to all of my videos before they go live to the general public. Now, I'm only here because of many of you understand the value of my work, and I couldn't do it without you. From PokeyBear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates the Conspiracy Theory around Trump's assassination. Thanks so much.